In the top stories, Minister Grant says withdrawal from CARICOM travel bubble was necessary despite negative impact. Gonzalez won his 5th straight election in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and vote counting continues in key states for the 2020 U.S. presidential election. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Friday, November 6, 2020. I am your presenter, Shaira Flanders. Nationally, Minister of Tourism Honorable Lindsay Grant has acknowledged that the Federation's withdrawal from the CARICOM travel bubble will negatively impact travel to the islands. Speaking at a tour of the airport earlier this week, Minister Grant said the withdrawal will be inconvenient to some persons. However, the decision had to be made in the interest of the citizens and residents.
We are going to be affected by it because it's going to be very difficult for persons who really want to come and spend a few days to do that in a quarantine period. But we understand these are challenging times, and people will have to adjust and readjust to the change in times. And this is just one of those critical times that we have to change to. We expect it to be in the bubble and move freely within the 8 countries that were designated. But as you know, there have been spikes in other countries, and we are not prepared then to have those persons who are more at risk come into contact with our very low-risk country.
On Tuesday, November 3rd, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris announced that St. Kitts and Nevis would be withdrawing from the CARICOM bubble. This means travelers from CARICOM countries, like all other travelers, will have to undergo the mandatory 14-day quarantine requirement in addition to submitting a negative PCR test 72 hours prior to arrival. In other news, in order to celebrate Tourism Month 2020, a number of activities have been put in place, says Tourism Event Planning Manager within the Ministry of Tourism, Alistair Williams, during his appearance on Working For You on November 4th. He said that activities are geared towards highlighting some of the tourism developments, the vision for tourism in St. Kitts, and to encourage the general populace to do what it can to help to preserve and to protect the industry. The Ministry of Tourism and the Department of Energy will be partnering to hold a Tourism and Energy Bahop on November 7th at 9 a.m. starting from the Department of Energy's office at Nismus. On Tuesday, November 10th, there will be an energized soca-size session at Flowgrounds from 5 p.m. with Mr. Bagnall. Activities continue with a Family Feud tourism edition at Vibes Beach Bar on Wednesday, November 11th, a Heart of St. Kitts Beach cleanup on Saturday, November 14th, a community tourism training workshop on Wednesday, November 18th, and several other events. For the entire month of November, the travel-approved SEAL training will be held every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Interested persons are asked to call the Ministry of Tourism to register. And as we wrap up local news, all are being invited to take part in Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris's Health Walk this weekend. The Health Walk is being held under the umbrella of SKN Moves initiative. Participants will assemble at the bus stop in Bellevue and will follow the traditional route that takes them through Tabernacle, Mansion/Estridge, Christchurch, along Boria Road onto Lemon Hill, through Lodge Village, and end at the Otleys Hard Court. The Health Walk is set to be held on Saturday, November 7th at 5:30 a.m. We now move on to news on the regional scene. St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez has created history in the Caribbean community, leading the Unity Labour Party, or ULP, to a 5th consecutive victory in Thursday's general election. Preliminary figures released by the Electoral Office showed that the ULP had won 9 of the 15 seats in the Parliament, an increase of 3 seats on the 1-seat majority he had in the past 2 general elections. It is the first time that a political party has won 5 consecutive general elections in St. Vincent. One of the casualties of the election was Health Minister Luke Brown, who was defeated by newcomer Dwight Fitzgerald Bramble in the East Kingstown constituency. Gonzalez, 74, easily won his North Central windward seat that he has been representing since 2001, brushing aside his two contenders, Chieftain Neptune of the main opposition New Democratic Party, or NDP, and Kadmil Kafi of the CVG Green Party. In a message posted on his Facebook page, Gonzalez thanked voters for returning the ULP to power. He said, quote, "It's celebration time. It is 5 in the tail," he wrote. Quote, "I am humbled and honored that the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines embraced our bold vision for the future and rejected the politics of hate, backwardness, and colonialism," end quote. NDP leader Dr. Godwin Friday, 61, who led the party into a general election for the first time, easily retained the northern Grenadine seat he has represented in Parliament since 2001. And in other regional news, Antigua and Barbuda's Minister for Information, the Honorable Melford Nicholas, says changes made by other countries whooped out of the travel bubble can have a daunting effect. Here's more in this ABS News report.
Despite the Caribbean Public Health Agency creating a framework on ranking COVID-19 risks to provide guidance on CARICOM travel, some countries have opted out of using CARIF's guidelines. Information Minister Melford Nicholas says it's a cause for concern.
There have been a number of individual actions taken by member states of the CARICOM community, to include Grenada, which has opted out, and we have learned yesterday that St. Kitts as well has opted out. More importantly and more troublesome has been the actions of Barbados, which seem to have come up with its own categorization.
Barbados has recently ranked Antigua as a high-risk destination. However, based on CARIF's system, Antigua has only once been higher than low risk.
The first category is where there are no reported cases, and then of course there are four other categories. Low risk, that is with less than 20 active persons per 100,000.
In June, there were 39 imported cases shortly after the country reopened to international commercial travel. Since then, travel protocols have been changed to prevent a recurrence. Meanwhile, Minister Nicholas says, notwithstanding actions by other Caribbean territories, Antigua's government will stand by recommendations by CARIF for the bubble.
Our government is intended to support continue to support the CARIF regime and the prescription, and we're here. But as I've indicated just a moment ago, if we continue to have these sporadic changes, it's not going to be helpful.
The issue will be up for discussion when regional heads next meet. Jessica Russell, ABS News.
On the international scene, President Trump's campaign threatened legal challenges after its path to victory narrowed, with Joe Biden winning 2 critical states in the upper Midwest. Several other battlegrounds remained too close to call. We hear more in this ABC News report.
Battleground Pennsylvania, a big prize, 20 electoral votes hanging in the balance as the counting continues here for the 3rd day. Blue voters like Lauren Swan hoping the Keystone State will deliver Joe Biden the White House.
I voted for the Biden-Harris ticket. I pretty much voted straight Democrat. And I had a lot of concerns about this election cycle, like a lot of people did. We need better health insurance coverage and better health care equity.
Just north of Philadelphia, the people of Bucks County have voted Democrat in every election since 1992. But Republican Pat Poprick still holds out a slim hope her state will remain in the president's column.
Why'd you vote for President Trump?
Because I think he had the best plan for the future. I liked what he did in the last 4 years. The stock market, the unemployment rate went down, so I thought 4 more years of the president is what I'd like to see.
In addition to Pennsylvania, all eyes are focused on 2 other states, Georgia and Arizona, where the vote count remains neck and neck. But the path to the White House looking a little easier for the challenger today.
It is the will of the voters, no one, not anything else, that chooses the President of the United States of America. So, each ballot must be counted, and that's what we're going to see going through now. And that's how it should be.
The president, after being camera shy for 2 days, appearing at the White House this evening to falsely claim there is fraud and corruption going on with the vote count.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us.
The president came into the briefing room and made a series of unfounded and wild accusations without presenting a shred of evidence, really disinformation coming from the president. In some ways, an attack on the integrity of the American democratic system.
In a rambling set of accusations without any evidence, Trump said every part of the election process had been rigged against him, apparently frustrated with most of the numbers going in Joe Biden's favor.
We were winning in all the key locations by a lot, actually, and then our numbers started miraculously getting whittled away in secret.
The president is invoking this idea of illegal votes, of a stolen election, but there is no evidence of illegal votes. What is happening is the counting of votes, including absentee mail-in votes. This is a process that takes time, and there has been no evidence presented that any of it is being done in a way that would be illegal or fraudulent.
As the votes continue to be counted, Joe Biden is seeing increased numbers due to mail-in and early voting.
Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well. But that patience has been rewarded now for more than 240 years. Senator and I, we continue to feel very good about where things stand.
One of the places the campaign is happy with where things stand is in Georgia, once a conservative stronghold, now the surprise of the election. When the polls closed on Tuesday, the president was ahead by more than 300,000 votes. 2 days later, the gap is razor thin.
At this point, we're trying to get all the legal votes counted accurately so we can get the right results and make sure that everybody's vote is reflected properly.
The United States says it is deeply concerned over the arrest of a prominent journalist in Hong Kong. It has accused Beijing of, quote, crushing press freedom in the city. Al Jazeera's Sarah Clark reports from Hong Kong.
Bao Choi is facing charges for her role in a TV documentary series investigating police misconduct during last year's anti-government protests. Police accuse her of making false statements to access personal information while carrying out research. Media unions have condemned the government's action.
I think it's very ridiculous and deplorable that it happened in Hong Kong. I think journalists never expect that such kind of case, such ridiculous and sad case will happen that soon.
The investigative report examined accusations of a delayed response by officers to an attack by a group on protesters at a train station in July last year. Police were accused of colluding with the gang. Choi used a government database to trace and identify the owners of the cars that the attackers travelled in. Police say that information was obtained illegally. Media union groups say Bao Choi was just doing her job.
What we're talking here is not a special privilege for journalists because we're talking about accessing public records. By nature, this information in the public domain and it can be accessed by anyone in the public.
The arrest of that reporter could happen to all of us. The government changed the process and this was a trap. This is part of a government action to suppress the media.
The government has rejected claims Choi's arrest was part of a media crackdown.
This is not a target on any specific industry. It is the case's circumstances which decide what is the subject of this investigation.
Since the national security laws were introduced in July, the Territory's Journalists Association says the rules have changed for the media. Critics warn that while these new laws mainly punish secession and foreign interference, they could be used to suppress dissent.
And now for the weather. Present weather is fair. A gentle breeze of 12 miles per hour is moving from the east. Current temperature is 27 degrees Celsius. That's 80 degrees Fahrenheit. A moderate trade wind flow generated by a ridge of high pressure will continue to transport shallow pockets of low-level moisture across the area, which could result in a moderate chance for shower activity over and around the islands during the next 24 hours. Sunset today will be at 5:38 p.m. and the sun is expected to rise tomorrow at 6:12 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your presenter, Shaira Flanders. Have a good one.